History. I'm 40-something. This happened way back when the world was not such a scary place. I was born with kidney disease, had several surgeries from 1 to 11, until they got it right. This instance was when I was about 5. I had just been released from the hospital, and Mom had to stop at the pharmacy, only one in our little town, on the way home from me being discharged to pick up my meds. She pulled into the strip mall where the pharmacy was located. Apparently some store was opening in the center because there was music, and I saw balloons everywhere. But I was tired. I had been laying on the back seat and remember looking out and then laying down, and Mom locking the doors, rolling down my back window about 5 inches. We live in Florida, so you never sit in the car with windows up, and telling me not to leave the car. I think I fell asleep. I awoke to the horror of an arm reaching through the window to unlock the door. It was a clown. A clown was coming to get me, kill me for all I knew. I never trusted clowns. He opened the back door and I jumped over the seat into the front and laid on the horn, screaming like a wild child. My mother and everyone else within earshot came running. The clown was apologetic, offering a twisted balloon in the shape of a giraffe, saying he just wanted to give it to me. No thank you. No way. I was inconsolable. And that began my unnatural fear of clowns. I even hated Ronald McDonald. Sorry, a clown is a clown. A person hiding their face. Even at 5, I had no time for that. Fast forward 2 years. I'm 7, in the hospital sharing a room with 2 other kids, and a free bed. For those of you who don't know, kidney problems are miserable. You have to pee, you can't. And when you do, it hurts. Badly. I'm just out of surgery and we get visitors to cheer us. Clowns. I'm groggy and lose my mind, crying, screaming, again inconsolable. Why the hell are there clowns in my room? I did not ask for them. I'm sick and I'm in pain. Go the hell away. After they remove the clowns, and the nice nurse sits with me until I fall asleep, I wake up to an effing giraffe balloon animal that one of the clowns left for me. Sure, it was probably a coincidence. I think giraffe is the basic balloon animal requirement for clowns. Matters not to me. I am an adult now. And I swear to the heavens, any clown approaches me, I will consider it a threat to my life, and dropkick the SOB. 2. Okay, so I'll just start this by saying my dad is a character. All of my friends loved him growing up because he would entertain you just by talking to him. This attitude is initially what led me to question the legitimacy of this story for a very long time. Now that I'm a bit older, I could tell this one cuts deep every time we make him tell it. Usually he talks in a very upbeat, active tone, but when my brothers and I first heard him tell this story, or talk about it in general, his tone completely changes. It's as if the color just rushes from his face. It's obvious he doesn't enjoy talking about it. Okay, now to the story. He was about 18 at the time. From pictures, he seemed like an athletic, approachable teen. He was living in the Gary Whiting area of northwest Indiana. Sometime later in the evening, my dad, who's been a smoker for roughly 50 years of his life, decides to hitchhike to his local convenience store. He has a knack for talking about places or events as if you were there. An odd thing to do, considering the shop was only a couple miles away from his house. Eventually, a truck pulls to the side of the road. It was a baby blue pickup truck, to be exact. Apparently, there were 2 men in the truck, probably both in their 40s or so, pretty normal looking to him. He said that the driver was a bit burly and sort of looked like Jackie Gleason. The truck was only a 3-seater, so the man in the passenger side had to moved to the middle. No words spoken, apart from the driver asking him where he was going. This didn't strike my father as odd, so he proceeded to sit in silence, not suspecting anything. Suddenly, out of nowhere, one of the guys randomly bursts into laughter. According to my father, this wasn't your ordinary laugh, but something much more diabolical. Surely enough, the driver looks at my father with what he claimed was the devil's eyes, now chiming in with the laughter. As you could suspect, they start to go a different route. My dad knew they weren't heading anywhere near the desired destination. He was trying to play it cool, wait for his chance. Luckily, a couple minutes later, they finally hit a red light. The driver slowly crept his arm across the cab and starts caressing my dad's neck. I guess his fight or flight kicked in, and a surge of adrenaline came about. He unlocked the door and bolts out, no looking back. He said he hid in a local church and watched as they drove around looking for him. Some years later, my dad was watching the news when a mugshot of a man popped on the screen. His heart sunk. The man was undoubtedly the same who had picked him up hitchhiking. That man was John Wayne Gacy. 3. It happened back in the late 1980s, when I was home one summer on break from college. About 2 years prior, my dad had purchased an old house with the intention of eventually tearing it down to build a new home. The house was built in 1916, and like most homes built in that area, it had a really unconventional floor plan. There was a central living room and kitchen like any normal home, but the 3 bedrooms were more akin to separate apartments. Each had its own separate outside entrance, a private bathroom, and a door that led to the common area living room and kitchen. Perhaps the place was originally intended to be a boarding house or something. I really don't know. The other thing that was a little creepy about the house was that it was all wood. The ceilings, walls, and floors were all brown, and nothing was ever painted or plastered. My dad was a pretty cool guy. While he was waiting for permits and financing, he let 3 of my friends live there for free in exchange for watching the place. They had a lot of parties, but my dad didn't care, as long as none of the neighbors complained. I went to a few parties there myself, when I was lucky enough to be home from college. Eventually 2 of my friends moved out, leaving my one buddy there to watch the mostly empty house on his own. He was not the type of person to be afraid of living alone in a half-empty house, so he was fine with the situation. I'm at home one afternoon when the phone rings. It's my buddy, and he sounds terrified. He tells me to call the police and meet him out in front of the driveway of the house, but under no conditions go in. I ask him why, and he tells me that there is a crazy clown in the house. Apparently he was sick with the flu, in bed for the previous 2 days. When he finally felt well enough to go into the kitchen to get something to eat, he runs face to face with a crazy woman dressed in a clown suit and makeup, who starts screaming at him. It was then that he ran out of the house and called me in a panic from a nearby gas station. I call the police and then drive over to the house, which was about 2 miles away. I find my buddy on the sidewalk, out front, and he's really shaken up. I ask him to describe what he saw, and he keeps saying that there is a crazy clown woman in the house. I ask for more specific details, and he describes her as dressed in a white clown suit, with red makeup smeared all over her face. He is still a little sick, so he looks really bad, and honestly, he is really freaking me out as well. There was no way in hell that I was going to go into that house to investigate his story. After what seems like an eternity, a cop shows up. My buddy tells him the same exact story. The cop then goes into the house while we wait outside. After about 5 minutes he emerges, escorting a crazy clown woman who looks exactly as my friend described her. She has wild, unkempt brown hair, and is wearing this weird, baggy one-piece, all-white body jumper suit. What was really disturbing, though, is her face. She had a tube of lipstick, which she crudely spread red all over her cheeks in a failed attempt, I suppose, to make them look rosy. Although we were both freaked out, the cop thought it was hilarious. The clown woman claimed it was her house and then accused us of being on drugs and trespassing on her property. When the cop told her to get in the back of his squad car, she warned him that she had powerful friends in Tinseltown who would have him fired. When he comes back to talk to us, he tells us he can't arrest her for breaking and entering because the house is half abandoned. He said the best he could do was drive her a few blocks away and hope that she doesn't wander back. This, of course, freaks us out even more. Fortunately, though, when they run a background check on her, it turns out she has an outstanding warrant and would be going to jail instead. That is the last time we saw her. When we go back into the house, we find all kinds of crazy stuff written on kitchen cabinets in the same red lipstick she rubbed all over her face. There was also some 10-day-old fish in the fridge that my friend never got around to eating, that she cooked on the stove and ate. The really scary thing, though, is that this crazy woman was in the same house with my friend for at least a day, while he was sick and semi-delirious in bed with a fever. She was probably harmless, but who knows what she would have done if she stumbled upon him while he was sleeping. His door was unlocked the entire time. Fortunately, she never did, as far as we know. 4. My friend Kayla and I are both girls, and we're 13 and 12 years old, I think, but we're regularly mistaken for 17 or 18-year-olds. By this point in our lives, we'd been hit on by teenagers and full-grown men, assuming we were older a number of times. Anyways, we both took Irish step dancing classes, and our class got to be part of a St. Patrick's Day parade. Our dresses had no pockets to hold my cell phone, so I just told my mom to meet us where the parade ended, hoping she'd be able to figure out where that was because nobody had told us the parade route. Well, the parade ends, and my mom is nowhere in sight. Assuming she's waiting in the car in one of the huge parking lots, the dirt lot kinds they have at big events like these, where you get directed to a certain area to park. We go wandering amongst the cars, hoping to spot her. Halfway through the first lot, we spot a group of clowns behind us in the distance, walking in our general direction, probably heading for their car. Kayla was absolutely terrified of clowns, so she immediately crouched down in between the front ends of two parked cars that were facing each other, not wanting to look at them and not wanting them to see her. I quickly kneeled down too because I felt like an idiot, and we just sat there waiting silently, staring at the ground, until enough time has passed that they'll be out of sight. After a few minutes, I suddenly get a weird feeling and turn around, only to see that one of the clowns, a youngish man dressed like a hobo, is standing right behind me, leaning over to get a better look at us. The rest were a ways away. We both kind of scream and jump up, and I immediately whip around to make sure there's not another one on the other side completely trapping us. But there wasn't, thank God. Not knowing how long he had been standing there looking at us, but hoping he had just walked up, I made up some bullshit excuse for why we were down there, like, "I guess that quarter must have rolled further than we thought, Kayla. I think it's gone for good." And then looked at the man and said, "We were just looking for the change she dropped." I'm sure it wasn't very convincing. But the weird thing is, the guy never said a word. He never actually asked what we were doing down there. And he didn't apologize for scaring us or anything. He just stared at us silently. I'd like to think that the look on his face was either just confusion or non-malicious amusement, like, I know exactly why you're hiding, but I think it's kind of funny that this is freaking out your friend. But it was pretty much impossible to tell his actual expression, because of the fake smile painted on his face. Which is exactly why clowns are so disturbing in the first place. Not wanting to stick around and deal with him any longer, I grabbed Kayla's arm and quickly dragged her in the other direction because she was still staring at him in horror. When we finally looked behind us, the whole group of clowns was gone, and Kayla had to sit down again to calm down for a little while. We found my mom in the next parking lot, and she thought the story was kind of funny because Kayla always overreacted when she thought things were creepy. Honestly, the dude probably just saw us suddenly ducking down and wanted to know why we never came back up. Or he could tell we were scared and told his friends, "Hey, watch this. I'm gonna go scare the bejesus out of those girls," since we didn't actually look like children. I'm thinking my friend's fear was just contagious, but I can't deny that I was terrified when I turned around and saw him standing so close because I never even heard him walking. Still, he probably was nowhere near as creepy as the clowns in the circus my brother performed in. 5. I was around 11 years old and was with my sister and her friends. We are all girls. They were around 16 years old and were taking me trick-or-treating. We were going door to door to get candy and playing with a silly string. I kept getting this weird feeling like I was looking behind me constantly, and I had no clue why. Around 9:30 p.m., I turned around quickly, and there was a guy dressed up as a clown about 2 yards behind us. I wasn't really scared about this because I like clowns, and this was the first time I saw him. I figured that he was just trick-or-treating, but he followed us for another hour, never getting candy, and waiting for us at each house we stopped at. At this point, I was stressing and told my sister about the clown. She decided that we try to go a completely different route and see if he still follows us. So we all crossed the street and he followed us. My sister absolutely hates clowns and was freaked out, so she called her dad to pick us up. We continued walking for about 30 minutes until our dad called us saying where he was parked. We all started walking fast toward the direction of my dad's car, but that's when the clown ran in front of us and tried to corner us. I think he knew that we were trying to leave. My sister and her friends were freaking out, and me, being a naive and outspoken kid, I yelled at the clown to leave us alone. I remember that he tilted his head to the side when I said that, kind of like a confused dog. I grabbed my sister's silly string and told the clown that if he didn't leave us alone, I'd ruin his outfit with the silly string. Again, I was a naive kid. I actually thought that he would be scared of silly string. The clown didn't back off, so I stringed him all over his mask and costume. While I did this, my sister called our dad again, telling him to hurry where we were. The clown struggled to get the string off of his mask so he could see. But we were already running. My dad came around the corner and we all rushed inside the car. The clown caught up with us, trying to open the car door, but it was locked. As my dad hit the gas, the clown slammed his hands on the back window. I remember watching him out the back window, trying to chase the car, but failing. I never figured out what was up with that clown, but there were other reports of a clown with the same description chasing kids in the area. Creepy clown, I hope that the silly string ruined your outfit, and that we never meet again. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 true creepy clown encounters. Good, got it right. I kept saying creepy clown. Don't know why, my tongue just didn't want to cooperate, I guess. Anyway, I want to say thank you very much to all the people who shared their stories with me. Some of these have been up for a while. I was actually very pleasantly surprised I managed to get 5 of them to use here. And a lot of them were long shots, I have to say. So thank you very much to everyone involved, and I really appreciate you giving me permission to use your stories. Wasn't sure if I should include the John Wayne Gacy one, since he wasn't actually in clown makeup when he did it, but he was known as the Killer Clown, so, you know, he gets in there on a technicality. I do hope you enjoyed these stories, but if you didn't, don't worry, I'm not going to make a regular thing out of it. It was something I had to get out of my system, shall we say. Although as I was making this, I did find myself with the urge to perhaps attempt another Encounters with Killers video. Possibility I might be able to get enough material for that, because I only used 3 stories in the last one. We'll see what I can come up with. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off now. I'm going to actually go and start recording this week's paranormal video. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.